Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. I know we sing it about December, but to me, June is the most wonderful time of the year.
And why is that?
Well, June is Pride Month. Happy Pride, everyone. But it has a lot of personal significance for me as well. I first transitioned in June, now 9 years ago. And then also, this is a big, big milestone for me this year. I am turning 50 years old.
Wow. 50 years old, a half century. So tell me, what words of wisdom do you have for people now that you're 50 years old?
The biggest one that I have is how quickly it would take to get old. I thought it would take a lot longer. We thought a great way to celebrate Pride Month would be to talk about some ways that we can become better allies. And that means all of us. So I want to be an ally, even though I myself am a part of the LGBTQ plus community. It means that I know a certain sliver of the community. I want to be an ally to those other letters in the community as well. And then, of course, if you are not part of the LGBTQ plus community, we're really grateful to have you here so that you can become a better ally as well. And this episode is for all of us.
I'll tell you where it came from. We had an organizational meeting last night attempting to create a PFLAG group in our area. And we went around the table and asked people, why would they want to be part of this? Many of the people who were allies said, basically, because they want to know more, they want to learn more, they want to understand more, they want to know how they can relate better. So we thought, well, let's do a podcast about that.
I found myself saying something in that conversation that surprised me. It's the first time that I think that I've ever said it. Maybe I've said it in the past, but I don't recall ever saying it. And someone asked kind of originally I was talking about how having a safe space is really, really important. And somebody said, do you feel unsafe in the community? And I said, well, for me, that doesn't really feel like exactly the right word. I do feel safe, but I don't always feel comfortable. And then we kind of went on, and then I came back and I said, I'm still kind of thinking about that. The analogy that I have, and it's not a perfect analogy. No analogy is going to be 100% perfect. But I have been told that as a hearing person, there are things that I will never fully understand about the deaf community. But when deaf folks get together, they have a camaraderie with one another. They understand one another in a way that I, as a hearing person, can never fully understand because they've all gone through some similar experiences. And while they all have different personalities and different life histories and everything, there's that one common thread that they can feel like we have this in common together. I think that's important in any aspect where we're trying to be allies, is that we don't know what we don't know. So we're trying to learn what are some of the things that I can be a better ally, just as I want to be a better ally to the deaf community, because I don't know what I don't know. The more that you understand about how LGBTQ people navigate the world, the better you can understand how you can be a support, how you can be there for somebody when they're going through a difficult time, and how you can stand as a true ally, protecting them, supporting them, helping them to make it through when times get hard.
So let's jump right in. Attend a meeting or find a group of people that are going to help you understand and feel comfortable around them. If you're like me, when I attended my very first meeting, unlike Raya, who said, "Oh, I feel so comfortable here," I was uncomfortable there. I didn't start walking in saying, "Wow, this is my people." No, not at all. It took me a couple of meetings, but I found out very quickly they're all the same. They're the same as all other groups you get to. There's good people and bad people in every organization and every group as there is here. But what I did find out is that they're very open because you're part of their meeting. They're very accepting. They're very sharing. I feel very comfortable now getting in a group like that. I feel as though I'm walking into my family.
Mm-hmm. There's an investment in this. Again, depending on where you live, it might mean, as we had to do at one point, when we attended our very first PFLAG meeting, that was an hour, 15-minute drive. But it was worth it because we really wanted to connect with that community. I would encourage you, look up PFLAG. It used to stand for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, but they realized they've expanded it so much more. So now it's no longer an acronym for anything. But PFLAG is a tremendous group to attend and to meet other allies and people in the LGBTQ plus community in your very first place of stepping out and saying, I want to be part of this. I want to be a better ally. There may not be a PFLAG group near you, and if there's not, Dad, where else could they go?
Oh, there's a variety of things they can do. There's a group called the Trevor Project. There are human rights campaigns and human rights groups out there. Probably the easiest thing they could do is just look online, see what's available in your community, in your area. Just Google what's available within a 50-mile radius of me, and you'll find something. There's something everywhere.
If you're in a bigger city, there will probably be a community pride center that you can go to. They will have ally events that you can attend.
Mm-hmm.
If you live near a university, there is probably a GSA group or a campus pride center that you can attend there. They're going to have educational events and things that you can do there. And of course, June is Pride Month, so you can attend a pride. Most cities of any size are going to have some kind of a pride event. Just do a Google search. Do it right now. Find out what's going on around you. And this coming weekend, or maybe the following weekend, there's probably an event around you, and that would be a great way to step out and to take your first step.
Number 2, when you take that first step, you're going to walk in there and maybe someone will welcome you, maybe they won't. Take it upon yourself to make a friend. It doesn't take long. 3 years ago, we had a new superintendent of schools come to a Rotary meeting that I'm involved in. He walked in, didn't know anyone. So I took it upon myself to make a friend. I met him, and I had been on a school board in another community, so it was easy for me to connect with him and talk about that. We made friends very quickly, and I saw for the next 2 or 3 meetings, we kind of always sat together, and we really got to know each other. And that make a friend immediately became a lot more than that. We looked for an opportunity to go out to dinner together with our wives. We had a great time. Things continued to go really well there. And it was a good way for me to show my support for somebody in that community. When you make a friend out there, you're doing a wonderful thing for both them and for you.
We live in a culture that is so saturated with technology and social media, and it means that our connection with other human beings has lost the magic spark that we used to have before this technological age. There's something about reaching out and saying, hey, would you like to go for coffee? Hey, could we go out for lunch sometime? Hey, you know what? I like to go for walks periodically. Would you ever like to come out for a walk with me? Or would you ever want to go to the gym with me? Or whatever you do, find it something you're already doing and look for a way to connect with that other person.
Well, maybe it's somebody out there that is just really into their iPhone right now, and all they do is text each other. Maybe you could say, hey, you want to go sit on a park bench and text each other?
And that leads us to number 3. After you've made a friend, it's not enough to just keep them as a friend, but now you want to be a friend. This means investing in the relationship, being there for them when they're going through issues. It means we're in this for the long haul. It means it's not just a surface kind of thing, but I'm going to really put some effort into this. I'm going to invest in the friendship.
I made a friend when I went overseas in the military. When I first got there, I didn't know anybody. Within a week, I made a very good friend who became my closest friend. And I'll tell you what it means to be a friend. This is 60 years later. When we get together, it's like no time has passed. The other thing is, there isn't anything we won't tell each other, which is something that's very unusual. That is the ultimate being a friend. He can ask me anything, I can ask him anything, and I get a straight answer. And that is something we usually don't hear.
Well, that's good. That's certainly not something that I could do. I could try to give you a straight answer, but I never would be straight. Moving on. Once you've made those friendships, there are other ways that you can really get to know what LGBTQ plus folks are like, get to know more and more stories. One of the easiest ways is just to find movies or TV shows that have LGBTQ themes and issues in them. I found a BuzzFeed article that gives 10 TV shows from the past decade that have positive trans representation. Now, this is trans. You could Google something similar for gay or lesbian and a variety of others, bisexual, but this was just the one that happened to pull up here. Some of these you may have seen, or some of these might be your new show that you want to start binge watching. But they suggest, of course, Orange is the New Black. Laverne Cox was one of the most influential and one of the first positive trans actors that we saw. And she was so important for me. I remember watching Orange is the New Black in that few months leading up to my transition and seeing her and thinking, wow, I'm so glad that there's somebody that's not just the butt of a joke. But she was a positive, she was a fully formed character. She was not one-dimensional or two-dimensional. She was a full person with all of her desires and hopes and motivations, and great show. If you've never seen that one, it's a great show. It can be a little risque at points, but it's a great show, great representation there. The L Word Generation Q. If you ever watched the L Word back, 20 years ago, they tried to tackle trans issues then, and they did not such a good job. There are some issues that that one was harder for me to watch, but the new reboot of the L Word, which is now called Generation Q, has some much more positive representation. This one I haven't seen for myself, but Shameless comes up on the list as having some positive trans representation. This one I love, and my kids love this show, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. If you grew up watching She-Ra, Princess of Power, or He-Man, I highly encourage you, check out the reboot on Netflix of She-Ra. And there's really, really positive representation of trans people and just gender-non-conforming characters in general. It's such a great show. I love the new She-Ra show. There's a show called Big Mouth that started in 2017. It's another cartoon. I have not watched that one. There's a show called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is a reboot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. If you know The Matrix and you know the Wachowski sisters, they did a show called Sense8, and it's with the number 8, Sense8. They have a very strong, positive transgender character in there. Again, when I watched that one, I thought, that's who I want to be. And in fact, both of them have transitioned themselves. They're sisters that have both transitioned. And it's not a surprise to me that they chose to have good, positive trans representation in the show because they were really writing the character that they wanted to be. Next one that they give is Supergirl, which I've heard very good things about the representation there. The next one that they give is Euphoria, which I've heard all kinds of things about Euphoria. I've not watched it, but it's very positive, but sounds also like a pretty intense show. I would like to watch that one, but ooh, wow. And then finally, they give the show called Pose, P-O-S-E, Pose. It is entirely characters that are either trans or gender non-conforming. So again, that looks like a really, really good show. Check that one out if you're looking for some good media to watch.
Well, that's quite a list of shows. So that could allow you to binge watch for quite a while. Number 5, documentaries. In documentaries, there is one that just came out, and it is called Queer Planet. You can see it on Peacock Network. I don't know anything about it because I haven't seen it yet because it just came out, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. Actually, I haven't seen it because I haven't been able to watch TV for a while. I've been very busy, which is a good thing. But this is really exploring the LGBTQ animal family and how much of it occurs in so many different animals. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And of course, what they say, if it occurs in the animal world, is normal. So that's very cool. We had a veterinarian on the show, Dr. Gasper. He said his group identified 187 species.
There's also great documentaries on things like Stonewall, if you're interested in LGBTQ plus history and real milestone in gay rights. Or you can watch kind of for one of the people that was highly involved in Stonewall, you can watch The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch documentaries as a whole on the gay rights movement and things that have happened. So lots that you can do there. A quick Google search will give you that. If you're a documentary person, there is no shortage of things that you can watch.
What's nice about what you're hearing is that there are so many ways to educate yourself just by watching TV and films.
But you might be the kind of person that you like to read. And that brings us to point number 6. You can also dive in with some books. Now, when I first transitioned, or earlier than that, when you were trying to figure out, what does it mean that Raya says that she's transgender? I gave you a book. That book was called She's Not There by Jennifer Finney Boylan. And she talks all about her transition. She's a college professor and everything that she went through as a professor with her family. And in fact, that was a book that was really critical for me in my own transition. That was recommended to me by a friend of mine that then when I read it, I said, that's me. I see myself in this book. There are other books. If you go to the library, the librarian can mention all kinds of things to you. This is Pride Month. I guarantee they will have some books for you if you like to read.
The one you talked about, you gave to us, and Mom and I both read it. She read it first because she reads way faster than I do, and I read it as well. And it did give us a little bit more understanding about what we were talking about.
Now, here's a tip. You might be the kind of person that you prefer to listen rather than to read. And so you probably know about Audible. That's the Amazon company where you can go and get books that you can download and listen to rather than read them. But did you know that if you listen to this podcast on Spotify, or if you use Spotify to listen to your music, if you upgrade to the paid account, you can now listen to most of the books that you can find that have audiobooks for free. It's not free because you have a paid subscription, but as a part of your paid subscription, those books are all included. And I looked up, and it turns out that She's Not There is, in fact, one of those books that you can listen to. When I listen to a book on audio, I like to turn it up to about 2 times speed, or sometimes even 2.5 times speed. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the book, and if I have a print copy of the book, or maybe on Kindle, I will read along at the same time as it plays it to me, and I feel like I get the double stimulation there. It helps me to continue on. If you have trouble reading books, it's a great way to keep going with your books. Or maybe you just go for a walk and you prefer to listen that way. Great way to do it. Sign up for your Spotify. We don't get anything from that. We're not sponsored by them. We're on the Spotify platform, but we don't get anything from that. This is just something that I discovered, and I said, wow, this is really cool. I've already listened to multiple books on Spotify. It's a great way for you to check it out. Number 7, you can also find additional podcasts or TED Talks or other things where people are giving their own expertise. Now, we're grateful to have you coming here and listening to Transcendent as one of the podcasts on your list. There are some other podcasts out there. We just did a quick search to find out what are some of the podcasts that you might hear about that might come up. And we've heard about podcasts like Nancy or Making Gay History or Query, Queery, and other podcasts. There's lots of great LGBTQ plus TED Talks as well, and all kinds of things you can do. If you're the kind of person that you really like to get information, there is no shortage of places you can go.
Point number 8, speak up. That means if you hear something that you know is wrong, it's really appropriate to speak up and say something about it. And when I say wrong, I mean there are definitely biases out there and prejudices and negative activities. And they're things that are not necessarily true. So you have to challenge the biases and stereotypes that have been proven to be wrong. In fact, we did a whole podcast on that. It's the one dated May 27th.
Just a few weeks ago, we talked about, do you know how to call out these 12 myths about LGBTQ plus people? And the idea being to be ready so that when somebody says one of these things, you have an answer or something that you can say. And the reason why this is so important, it's not something that you would think about in terms of educating yourself to become a better ally, except we all know that the teacher learns more than the students do. And when somebody says something that sounds wrong to you, if you just sit back and think, I don't know what to say about that, you never have a chance to grow and to learn. But if you speak up, even if you get it wrong, maybe you speak up and you try and you sort of fumble your way through the words, and you don't feel like it comes out right, you've still learned something. And now you can go back and say, what am I going to do differently next time? And in fact, maybe you get a question that you're just not sure what to say. Well, you can always say, something about what you're saying right there isn't sitting right with me. Let me go and do some research, and I'm going to get back to you on that. Maybe somebody spouts something that's a transphobic piece of legislation, and they quote some study that was done, and they say, all trans people like to go and sneak into your yard and kill your pets while you're sleeping. That doesn't sound right to me. But maybe you're not sure how to respond. Well, I'll give you one easy way. Is you can just send us an email. transcendent@gmail.com. We would love to hear if you come up against a question that you said, I don't know what to do. And then we could take a whole episode and talk about how trans people are very loving towards both cats and dogs.
Exactly. Yeah. And even pet pigs,
right?
Goldfish. They're all great. They're all friends of ours.
I'm not going to be a big fan of your pet snake. I'm sorry. I We'll be happy to support you. I'm not a snake person.
Well, my snake isn't here anymore. It's actually in Washington, D.C., along with all the other snakes.
A lot of snakes are there.
There is one last way you can learn more, and that is by supporting. You might support a local group. Just like a teacher learns more than the student, you find that you learn a lot yourself just by being a supporter. You can support this podcast, for example, by just telling people to listen to it. Send this to a friend. We're here dedicated to keeping families together, saving lives one podcast at a time. And if you would like to support us financially, you can do it for $3 a month.
Go to transcendent.com and click on the support button. We're happy to see you here every Monday, where we're bringing you news and ideas and ways that you can live a more positive life and be a better ally.
And with that, we'll see you Monday.